Jenkins, and I'm the lead of the Greater Portland Conscious Capitalism chapter. And the chapter has been around for about 2 years now. And if it's your first time joining us, we're so happy that you're here. We've recently started more publicly promoting our events. And so lots of people have been here for us for the whole time, and some new people are joining, sometimes out of curiosity or basically because they're really interested in the presenter. So Neil's a big draw today because we have a big group joining us. And so we're really excited about that. And if you're interested in learning more about our events or joining our mailing list, you can go to the Portland Conscious Capitalism website. We'll put that in the chat at the end, and you can look at our different events going forward, and you can also sign up for our mailing list to get that more actively directly in your inbox. So thank you again for joining us. And I think you all know that the topic today is really talking about what it takes to become a B Corp, and the most recent B Corp organization, Androscoggin Bank, and their CEO, Neil Kiely, here with us to talk about that. And we're going to talk about everything from conscious leadership to what that certification process was like and Neil's decision-making, and learn about Androscoggin Bank along the way as well, which will be super exciting. Just a housekeeping item, because I think you're probably all familiar that with groups this size and the size that this will eventually be as more people join, that the chat function can sometimes get a little bit out of control. So we'd really like you to hold your chat until we specifically ask for questions, because otherwise what we find is that people will have too hard a time paying attention to what Neil is saying, which will be super important, at the same time as reading what people are writing in the chat. So if that's okay with everybody as a ground rule, we'll ask you to actively go into the chat, but otherwise we use it pretty sparingly so that we can all focus and be a community together. Anyone have any concerns about that? Okay, great. Well, we're going to start off our session with some context setting to just really find out from Neil, in absence or in replacement of me doing a formal introduction of his bio. We're actually going to have Neil give us whatever he selects to tell about his background by really talking to us, Neil, about your path to becoming the CEO of a B Corp certified bank. So kind of give us some context as to how we got here together with you and why that.
Thank you very much, Tara. I'm really excited to be here with everybody. And the short answer was a very unconventional path. I will say it's a combination of influences and experiences across my entire career. Under the heading of influences, I'd point out, having exposure to kind of two seminal books. One was John Mackay's Be the Solution. Of course, he's the founder of Whole Foods. And the second one is Yvon Chouinard's Let My People Go Surfing. He's the founder of Patagonia. And, those two books, which I read years ago, kind of laid out the central tenets for conscious capitalism or multi-stakeholder capitalism. Essentially the idea that companies should think about organizing around serving multiple stakeholders instead of just shareholders, and focus on creating value for all of those stakeholders instead of just financial outcomes or results, which all resonated with me. But a couple of things resonated even more deeply. One is that although they talk about elevating employees to level of stakeholders, which was kind of radical, they actually go a step further and recognize that not only are employees worthy of value creation efforts, but they're also, they have two roles, because they also are the drivers for creating value for all the other stakeholders. So maybe they're first among equals, which made sense to me. And in terms of the leadership principles that they kind of outlined in order to run a company this way, the first one was this kind of deep care for your stakeholders, right? You have to have a deep care and passion and empathy for all of your stakeholders. And then beyond that, it's all about trust building. So, from my experience early in my career as an employee, that kind of culture and that approach resonated with me. But especially when I became a business owner and running my own companies and kind of building my own cultures, did it really profoundly resonate with me. I think my experience for other business owners on the phone will share this. And in Maine, people don't start companies just to make money. They start because they have a passion and they want to serve others. They don't look at employees as labor input, right? And we know that they're the backbone of philanthropy and service in our communities. And we saw both of those exemplified during the pandemic. We saw CEOs and leaders and business owners go to great lengths for their employees and to support the communities. So this all was really intuitive to me. Later in life, I had the kind of unique experience of going back to be an employee again after having run my own companies. And I landed in a renewable energy company fortuitously, and I was surrounded by, I would say, passionate, purpose-driven colleagues. And it was an incredible environment. And to be part of that was incredibly fulfilling and oftentimes fun, although candidly it was, they stretched my capabilities because they set the bar so high. So I had that experience as an employee, but I also, as a former business owner, watched the output, and I saw what these teams were able to do that was staggering and compared to our competition. So I had all of this kind of, I guess, rumbling around. And then in 2013, I had a kind of a personal experience. We had a house fire, which is a traumatic experience. There's no way to kind of describe it any other way. But it was also, an experience my wife and I, was the first time that we'd have been on the receiving end. I don't say necessarily of charity, but of service. Right? We had this invisible safety net of family and friends and neighbors and strangers come out and hold our family. And it was a profound experience, I think, for both of us. But for me particularly, it really distilled out what was important to me and helped me reprioritize what I wanted to do with my life and my gifts and capabilities going forward. So fast forward, about 2 years later, I had joined the board of the bank. I'm not a lifelong banker, which is somewhat unconventional. And the former CEO, Paul Anderson, took me aside one day and said, I have this crazy idea. What would you think about stepping off the board into management and helping me lead a transformation of the bank to reposition us, to make sure we stay relevant in the midst of all this change that's happening in our industry? And it was a no-brainer for me. Two reasons. I saw it as a unique opportunity. First, to be part of building a company and a culture that I would have wanted to work at every stage of my own career. And two, to kind of put all these principles and practices into practice, if you will. I'm sorry, to demonstrate you not only survive running this model, you can actually thrive, right? And so, I guess 5 years later, sitting here, B Corp certified is the culmination of this very kind of long journey that started years ago, and made a non-banker into a banker as an opportunity to kind of pursue this model.